Okay, we're very close today, but hello everybody and welcome back. The camera's up there too. Hello everybody and welcome back to the KCCMH Connection. Today I'm here with my guest Nicole. She is a nurse here, but she's not just any nurse. Actually, she has a very long history of nursing, very cool story. So, Nicole, tell us about your journey as a nurse, how it brought you to KCCMH, and then what you do as a nurse here.
Oh, goodness. That is quite a journey. I have been a nurse since 1996. I started as a military nurse in the Navy. I did active duty, which incorporates a lot of different skills. I went from post-surgical to med-surg, psych. I was on shipboard, you name it. So that's kind of how it started. When I got out of active duty, right before 9/11, I decided to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm a mom of six. Six. And a grandma of one. So that makes it kind of busy. So I stayed home for a little bit. In 2010, I decided to go back to work, and I started in corrections as a nurse. And that journey was incredible. It has provided a lot of autonomy, provided a lot of education.
I'm sure you have a million stories about being a corrections nurse as well.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's probably as colorful as an ER nurse.
Well, we'll save that for another podcast.
So I did that for about 10 years in various capacities, from teaching to administrator to regional administrator, just a lot of different capacities that we were duties other as assigned type of thing. I enjoyed that, but it was a little bit taxing on family. Then I ended up at the county jail in Colorado Springs as the administrator with a private medical contractor. That was a whole different world. I learned a lot about people. I had different experiences, and that took a toll, to be honest. I didn't really know if I wanted to be a nurse after that. And of course, I was there during COVID, so that really kind of made me challenge. And I kind of was looking for somewhere else to kind of land at towards the end of my career. So that's kind of how I ended up out here. I was born here in Burlington, so coming back is really coming back home. And I didn't realize.
I know where your office is in the hospital, and that has to be near where you were actually born.
Yes. So, and, actually cardiac rehab, when I'm sitting in there, that used to be the nursery.
Oh, wow. But full circle then.
Absolutely. So that's kind of where, I needed something to kind of shift down and slow down a little bit. So I started here as just a regular floor nurse and working inpatient, outpatient, stuff like that, working in the ER. And then I kind of transitioned into being case manager, which kind of takes all of my education, all of my skills, all of my experiences, and really kind of combines them. And I'm able to do a lot of different puzzle solving.
Okay. So for those that don't know what a case manager is, I know that's related to swing bed, correct?
It is. That's a huge part of it, especially for here. But a case manager is really a resource of knowledge about insurance, as much as that is changing, that always changes that platform. But it's really about community resources and sometimes thinking outside the box. And how do we really help people be successful as patients and advocating for themselves, and then providing education. So, and it's really about a resource for staff as well. Okay. So it's not just the patients.
Okay, very cool. So again, I've heard a commercial on KNAB where you talk about swing bed.
I do,
and
yes.
I know swing bed's very important. It's a very important part of the mission of KCCMH. So can you tell our listeners what swing bed is?
Swing bed really is the ability for skilled nursing, so they don't have to go to the nursing home, but they need a little bit of physical therapy or occupational therapy and just a little bit more time to be successful at home. And that can be after an illness, that can be after an injury, that can be after complications from both or either. And it really just provides a little extra time, but you don't have to be in the city, you can be here at home.
Generally, though, it's something has taken you to the city, like a hip replacement or an infection, you get treated there at a higher level, and then you're not ready to go home, and we're like a baby step.
We're in middle ground, but we can also, when we admit through the ER and we admit to inpatient here at the hospital, then that can actually transition into swing bed.
Okay, so you don't have to be
qualifying.
transferred from the city. Oh.
No, it's based on the qualifying events of really what's going on. And that becomes a team collaborative effort between the hospitalist team with the PAs that I work with, the nurses, and myself. And then we all kind of decide, and physical therapy, they are amazing over there at Park Wellness. And they really contribute a lot to this team as far as what are they capable of and where can we really help our patients get back to.
Okay. So what are some common reasons a patient might be admitted to swing bed?
That can be anything from an illness, respiratory therapy, respiratory issues like pneumonia. It could be that they have chronic illnesses that become increasingly difficult and create difficulty breathing, or maybe heart issues or things like that they can't manage at home and become critical. It could be a joint replacement. It could be an infection that makes them really, really sick. It could be a fracture, like a hip fracture, a leg fracture. We've seen a foot fracture. Just a variety, really, of illnesses and injuries that prevent them from going home and being safe.
Do you have to be a certain age?
No, not necessarily, but it is qualifying hospital stays, acute stays, as well as insurance.
Okay. So there's a lot of qualifiers that go into it.
There's a lot of research and there's a lot of pieces to that where it's not just me. It is really about the team effort to really review that record and really review, is that something that it would be beneficial for the patient? And as long as we can do it and it makes sense to the whole team, 9 times out of 10, we take them and we're able to rehab them.
So let's just say my dad ends up in the city with a broken hip and he wants to come back to swing bed, but the city doctors say you can't. Is there something I can do to help him or something he can do to help himself?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So when our community members, and we try to make sure, that's kind of the reason with the radio ad, but it's also through the nursing and the providers in the ER, is really letting people know that if they start talking about rehab at the hospital in Denver, to really look back and request to come back here. The family members can certainly call the hospital here and get my number and request that I speak with whoever at the hospital in the bigger cities. And it could be Colorado Springs, it can be Denver, it could be, I call everywhere. Or the patient themselves can request that, and there's usually never a reason that we can't unless their extensive rehab or their illness or whatever is not stable enough to come out here. And that's the other piece to that, is they have to be stable.
Gotcha. So our patients and their families should advocate for themselves, and if they want to come home, they really just, you're a phone call away.
Absolutely. And they can certainly call the main hospital number and ask for me and ask for case management. They don't even have to ask me by name, and the people will absolutely transfer them up to my office. And I'm happy to speak with anybody and kind of walk through that piece of it of, what's the circumstance and, what's needed. And then I can do the backside of getting that information and then getting that to the team. I do a lot of legwork as far as finding the patients, finding the case manager at the hospital, and then, never really connecting to the family, but really trying to work on the backside of that as well. But I will take either or both.
Yeah, and I know that your job isn't really a 8 to 5, that you're kind of on the clock all the time.
I take phone calls pretty much 7 days a week. I don't want to be kind with that. My husband and my family don't like that. But I certainly answer questions for families, that do call or call the hospital and the hospital forwards it to me. I do make those connections, and then I do make those connections back to the hospital in the bigger cities, especially if it's, hey, I hear it, but I will look at all that paperwork on Monday unless it's emergent. So yeah, I kind of make that work, that I am available.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know that our community appreciates that you go above and beyond in that. And so speaking of families, how do you support patients' families through the swing bed process?
I educate them on, kind of what comes next. What to expect. We have team meetings once a week. On every Wednesday, that's where our team gets together, physical therapy, the hospitalists, the nurses, myself, and sometimes there's a little bit extra, but the families are encouraged to actually come and sit in on that so that they're hearing all of it from all therapies of what's our gains, what's going on, and what's the projected discharge date. And that way they can ask questions, and there's really no hidden information. I work with them on resources of what do you have at home, what do you need, this is what our team suggests, and then make those abilities to get those items or information to them to be able to be successful and supported at home.
That's awesome. we know in healthcare it's a team sport.
And I will even offer that they can even call me after discharge if they have questions, especially when they first get home and going, I don't remember, how do I do that again? Or
Oh.
where do I go? But we make sure that they understand follow-up, the need for follow-ups with physical therapy and what's expected, and that kind of thing. So we try to make sure that all of that is done before they leave.
That's incredible. So if we can switch really quickly to your other role here at KCCMH, can you describe what cardiac rehab involves?
Yeah, it's I guess another passion. I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to run out of those. Cardiac rehab really is the ability after a cardiac event that they're referred either by primary care or their cardiologist, and not just our cardiologists here, but I get them from all over, from Banner Health, from UC Health, anywhere that they can come here. And we do structured exercise with monitoring for their heart, so we know that they're safe. Encourage them to do home exercise programs. We talk about nutrition, we talk about stress, we talk about how to modify their lifestyle to have a better quality of life. And then we go through and we kind of just work through exercises, and we get to really have a personalized program where it's one-on-one with me.
That's very cool. So it is February now. This is Heart Health Month.
It is.
So do you have a quick tip for our listeners on either how to prevent a cardiac event, or if they're recovering from one, how to stay healthy?
It is really about attention to self. And that's something I think as people, as adults, we really have to be in tune to our bodies, and we really have to dedicate time. And it's really about those exercise. We don't take it seriously enough.
I don't.
And I struggle, and I think that would be fair for everybody. But it's really about getting moving, getting out and walking, and really doing that and watching what you eat. And if it's a lot of processed foods, is it a lot of sugar? Is it a lot of salt? And really making those modifications early and taking care of yourself and meeting with your primary care provider and making sure that if they're suggesting medications that you're compliant with those.
Yeah. And I do know, just as a little pitch, is that right now, if provider refers you for calcium scoring, the hospital's going to cover that bill this month. So if you have a referral for calcium scoring, come see our imaging department.
And that's pretty incredible, that they're willing to do that. I work closely with the cardiologists that come out here, and we really collaborate on, hey, we sent these people out from the ER. Are they scheduled for your follow-ups?
Okay.
And where are we at with their rehab? Is that something that they would be successful? Or, do you want them to come and see and at least try it? And I make those phone calls, and at least if they qualify with the qualifying cardiac event, usually most insurances don't have a problem with that. Mm-hmm. But if they're a little hesitant, I invite them up, and they can kind of take a look at the space, and they can kind of look at what we do, and we can talk through those things. And I haven't had anybody refuse me since.
So how do you measure progress in cardiac rehab?
It's really about, we start out, I had one of my favorite patients started out that very hesitant to exercise because they were afraid that they were going to cause another cardiac event. And we help with the anxiety, mm-hmm. because I show them what it looks like. And we are able to then structure it where we start encouraging them to do a little bit more. And the more they do at home, and then we can see the progress inside, because we can actually add more time. We can add more different programs on the treadmill or the recumbent stepper, whichever one, to get their heart rate up, and we can do it longer. And she was able to really improve from like 10 minutes at home and barely getting 10 minutes here. And she was able to almost do an hour.
Oh, wow. I'm glad you mentioned that. Something I'd never thought about is a cardiac patient having a little bit of fear about another heart attack or something physical that may have caused their first issue.
Well, and they become hypersensitive. And I think we all do after a serious medical event or a serious illness. We wonder if that next thing, if that twinge, oh my gosh, is it going to happen again?
How scary.
Absolutely. And that plays a lot part in recovery as well. So we really kind of work through those things, and and it's really about being a coach. I'm not here to change your life. I'm not here to tell you that you're eating wrong. I'm just telling you these are the things that you can add, and I'll be your biggest cheerleader, and you're the driver of the ship at the end of the day, but we really do, it's a teamwork.
Yeah, I think it's very cool that you have You come from kind of a tough background with the military and the corrections, and I know that you're tough on your clients, but it comes from a place of positivity.
Yeah, and I do. And and it's really about flexibility too. I try to balance that with case management. And, my biggest caseload, I had 8 cardiac patients that I saw throughout the week, and still able to balance cardiac rehab in the middle of all that, and, of course, all the other obligations that I have. So it is really about that one-to-one, and that's really about that person. And I meet them where they're at. I'm not here to change them. I'm just helping them have a better quality.
Oh, wow. Okay, so how do both programs, swing bed and cardiac rehab, support long-term community health?
Because we can do it here. And I think getting them back home, that is healing in itself, because they're supported with people that they know, places that they're comfortable with. And I think that in itself is 50% of the success rate and the recovery. Just getting people back here. It's peace of mind too, but it's really about the more services we can offer here in the rural communities, and be able to show our counterparts in the bigger cities that we really do exist, and we really can take care of a lot of these other things. I think that it makes us stronger as a hospital organization as well as the community, because we know we can go back to home.
Yeah, and I know for me, what I love about swing bed and cardiac rehab is that it is true, you heal best surrounded by familiar faces, and that we can offer that. So what improvements or expansions would you love to see in these programs in the future?
For cardiac rehab, I absolutely would love to see a bigger space that we could offer, kind of like Park Wellness does, but we could offer where they could come in and do an open gym. And
Nice.
because that's kind of the hindrance, is that those exercise equipments are expensive. And maybe they don't have a lot of space at home, or they don't have a lot of extra income, and insurances don't pay for that. And people don't think of those things. So to be able to offer an open gym, kind of like Shaw's, nominal fee, whatever that is, to be able to have more access, more equipment, bigger space. Because right now I can just do a one-on-one, but I would love, because that also builds community when you can sit and visit and exercise with your friend.
True.
So then it's the accountability piece. There's opportunities then to have them come in and still be part of cardiac rehab on the extended phase 3, where they're unmonitored, but they're still there with medical providers in case something happens.
Kind of building that confidence.
Absolutely.
That's great. I'm going to pitch that for you. I love that idea.
Now, as far as swing bed, I think I would really, and I'm working on different platforms to really make sure that we have a way of getting our patients back here with less hassle on their end, where they really don't have to fight to come home. And I really don't have to fight for them to come here, because I've had to really, kind of wheedle my way through and advocate that I know what their baseline is, and this isn't it. And really let them come home and let us help and let us make that transition. Is really working with our counterparts in those bigger hospitals to be able to really network with them much, much easier. Colleague to colleague, case manager, in some form that they know that these people in this, I don't know if it's a mile radius, I don't know if it's zip codes, I haven't figured out that component yet, but really when that flag's on their end, that they know that they come back, and I'm one person for this area, and it's so much easier to get a hold of me than it is anybody in the city. So,
well, I think we all know that anybody that's tried to make an appointment anywhere in the city, that you're on hold and you're just at the mercy.
Well, and when you're a patient at those bigger hospitals, you're a name. You're not a person. And you're just one more thing to check off on that box for that nurse or that case manager. When they have 30 discharges that day, they just want to check that box and saying, yep, I have a discharge plan, and out the door you go.
Yeah, we're smaller, so we have the time to really personalize everybody's care.
And they become a mission of mine, that I
Yes.
want them home, and I spend an exorbitant amount of time on the phone.
So another thing people might not know is that we have a kind of community room for our swing bed patients, so you don't have to spend your whole day in your room. It's a beautiful skylit atrium room that has a TV, a little fake fireplace.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it's such a cheery place. That would be probably the only other access point that I think for a swing bed, is really to make that a little bit easier access.
Yes.
A little bit more centralized.
I agree.
Where people that are worried about their loved one in the emergency room can come and enjoy that as well. Where it's
I
a little
agree.
bit of, not less sterile, and a little bit, and really more comforting and familiar.
I think it's really nice that, if several family members came to visit a swing bed patient, they can go in there and sit at the table and have a meal. And...
We had a swing bed that they actually had a peace party. Lots of community members, lots of friends, church family, at some point friends become family, right?
Yep.
And everybody was there. There was probably 25 people that they brought pizza, they brought cake, and they had a life celebration.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Okay, that is so cool. So what's something you wish more people understood about the recovery journey in both aspects? Because swing bed and rehab are both about recovering.
It's really about the time, and it's letting yourself heal and giving yourself permission to heal and permission to make those choices and really be informed about those choices. That I don't want to make anybody upset. I don't want to make those life changes of, I don't want to be a DNR, but my family, wants me to, one way or the other. Either I want to be a DNR and my family wants every aspect of treatment, and really kind of just supporting that and ask the questions. And they're really, that we have an adage that there's no stupid question. And this is really true, is ask those questions of our team. And it's not just me, but even the nurses, and ask those questions of, what can I do with this? And find out those people. I know a handful of nurses that regardless whether you're a current patient or not, whether I know you or not, if you stop and ask me the question, I will give you everything, or I will be able to find that answer for you. And I think it's really about, the heart of, where do you want to go and how do I help you get there?
I love that. So again, I'd say the biggest message I've gotten so far from you is just, you have to advocate for yourself. No matter what you want, you've got to speak up. And
you have to make that known, because I will help you do whatever that is. I just have to know how to help you.
So, any final word you want to share with our community about cardiac rehab, swing bed, KCCMH?
Oh, I think it's just a matter of, this is a pleasure to actually work home, and where you start seeing people that are familiar, and you start seeing them back and forth. I see people in specialty clinic as I'm walking through, and I can actually ask them, hey, how are you doing? How are things going? Are you continuing to improve and get better and recovering? Or you can also add support to those family members that have had people here that have passed, and saying, it was a pleasure to work even at those end of moments, that people do care.
So I guess that's something we didn't touch on and we might save for another day, but can you briefly tell us about KCCMH and comfort care?
So we don't have hospice anymore, and this really kind of places that back into, we can do swing bed with comfort care or end-of-life measures, whichever, everybody has a term that they like. And it really kind of depends on what those circumstances are, but we really work to bring those people home too. And we want them comfortable here, and we want them where loved ones can stay with them, and we can support the family as well as the patient in those last days.
Peaceful, compassionate, private transition.
Absolutely. And I don't know that I had a passion for that before. I was kind of avoidant, to be honest, of end-of-life care from personal experiences. But I have found that really kind of makes it, when I can bring somebody home and they're like, oh my gosh, I am so glad we're here. And our family and our community, it's so much easier for people to come and visit for those last moments, that makes all the other stuff so much worth it.
And I know that several years ago, when we had to make the really hard decision to not deliver babies here anymore, that mission came, it kind of shifted to, like, how can we support other aspects of life? And dying is a part of life. And so I'm really glad that we've been able to build up that service, and that, you've taken that on as a passion project as well.
And I know I work with a lot of the providers on our hospitalist group that share that passion, that absolutely go above and beyond for those types of patients. Not that they don't for all the others, but some of them, that's a passion of their heart, that to really be able to support those last moments in the best possible way.
Dignity.
Absolutely.
Well, Nicole, thank you so much for being my guest today. And thank you for all that you do, because I know you wear so many hats here. I've seen you in the pharmacy. You're hosting a student today. Yeah. And I just, I appreciate your hustle, because it's a you're a dying breed.
You know, if I didn't like what I did, I wouldn't do it. You know, and I wouldn't still seek those opportunities to be a service, because that's really at the heart of nursing, is really service. And that's part of the mission of KCCMH, is service to the community as well.
Absolutely.
So I think I found my home.
Oh, well, we love you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, so everybody, thank you again for watching the KCCMH Connection. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe. You can find us on the YouTube platform, and you can find us at www.kccchsd. And we'll see you next time.
All
on
right,
The Connection.
thanks.